Jason, you asked me to come and talk to you about your role as chair. You've been in the role 12 months. Why did you approach me to have this conversation? What was the thinking behind this chat?
There's a lot of unrest at the minute amongst the fans, which is understandable with where we are in a league position. I wanted to, the big thing that people have told me to do is keep in touch with the fans, and I guess that's probably one of the things I'm having to learn. Coming through the junior section where there's a lot of positivity and a lot of the things you do are seen as good. This has been a sort of bit of a role reversal where it's tough, especially the way things are. It's been a tough 12 months, it's been an eye-opener. And having worked with you at the Fans Forum and know what you do for the club and the way you do things, the fans can relate to you as well, Dave. So it's a win-win situation. It's good for both parties to get some honest and open questions, and you as a fan will ask the questions that the people want to know.
Well, yeah, and on that note, we have asked people to contribute their questions. We've got them here. We'll cover off as many as we can. It might be that some are duplicated, so we'll get the essence of what people are asking. Whether you feel that you can answer all of them or whether they are questions that might be better answered by other people within the club structure will remain to be seen. But I think the way I want to kick it off is to get a better understanding of your role. Now, you're down as chairman or chairperson. What does that actually mean? Because we've spoken off the record about the role of a chair in football, and your role, as I understand it, is slightly different.
Yeah, I guess the traditional role of a chairman is to bankroll the football club, isn't it? And there's certainly not going to. I'm certainly not going to be able to do that. I guess when I got involved 3 years ago now with the junior section, I saw an opportunity to build something quite special. The Borough have had junior sections in the past. It's been done before, and I guess it's a reincarnation of that. And that was my going in point. And where it could take me, I never knew the answer to that. And 3 years later, here we are. I've been in the senior club role 12 months now. Now I'm in as chairman. That's the official title. And I guess the way the dynamics of the club currently work, it's more of a general manager's role. So when I came in 12 months ago, Adam had done a solid 6 months in trying to stabilise the business. Is the biggest challenge at the minute. The last 3 or 4 years as an Nuneaton Borough fan, you're always looking over your shoulder. There's been some turbulent times, there's been a relegation, and then COVID affected 2 seasons, which nobody ever foresaw. And we've just sort of, everything's been put on hold, so it's an opportunity to look at the whole business, which I've been trying to do over the last 12 months, the whole football business, and work out where we need to improve, rebuild, restructure, and hopefully leave a legacy for the Nuneaton Borough fans in many, many years to come. Now that's however long away that is, nobody knows, So if we get a Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney come through the door with millions and millions, then that's another conversation. But what you've got is a lot of Nuneaton people who want to do the right thing for the club, and I think there's no quick fix. So the dynamics how it works at the minute are Jimmy wants to concentrate on the football side of things, but still has a say in the overall business and still contributes a hell of a lot to the overall business. And then you've got myself, who is looking after the day-to-day runnings of the club, bills management, and how we make ourselves sustainable is one of our priority goals. And then under that you've got sort of 2 or 3 staff, Sophie, Andy and Mark, working tirelessly to keep things ticking over. Outside of that's pretty much the club that runs as a whole. So you've got 5 people that are on here day to day.
That provides us with a good sound footing for the first set of questions. The first one is a personal one. People ask this all the time. They used to ask me when I was involved in the club. Is yours a paid role? You don't have to answer these questions, of course. I mean,
No,
you
no.
wouldn't ask a man in the street or a woman in the street whether they get paid for what they do.
Absolutely, very sensitive. The honest answer is no. Would I like it to be? Yes. I took voluntary redundancy because there was an opportunity at work to do that, so I took that option. And the way I see my role at Nuneaton Borough is, however we build that sustainable model, then that includes paid roles for various roles. And would I like one of them? Absolutely yes, because I would like to make this a success moving forward.
Yeah.
If that's not the case, then I'm training in other aspects to make that work for myself. But it means I'll just get to spend less time here in doing what I want to do, which is be a chairman of your local football club, and the opportunity to build something here is immense. There's no ceiling, you know. We can take this club as far as is realistically possible. So it's that league football. It's been done before with clubs of smaller size. Burton is a prime example over here last night. Solihull Moors are a good model, you know, and then there's other clubs that are doing the right thing, but it takes time.
So you've cleared that up for us. Not a traditional chair.
No.
We don't have a board of directors that you chair. It's a small structure. You're more a general manager stroke operations person who's trying to come up with a strategy for some long-term sustainability to stop the boom and bust.
Yeah, not a traditional chairman's role, but chairman by title, and really proud to hold that title, and I'm working as a chairman.
Yeah,
you know, it's not like I'm working as a general manager. The role of a non-league football club day to day, with various bits and bobs, you're generally managing the place.
So there's no club secretary. Well, there's a football secretary, but there's no board that meets as a board would meet traditionally then, with all of those roles on a regular basis, with you chairing those meetings. That structure doesn't exist.
No official board of directors. There's a sponsors group that contain a lot of people who have put a lot of time and money and effort into the club for a long time, including the last 3 years, which has been crucial to the business. But we do have plans to formalise a structure for the football club, definitely moving forward, because it needs it. It needs that direction. It needs professional input, you know, and that includes sponsors, the fans, you know, and everybody who wants to be involved. And we've just got the difficult thing is to get that balance of how it works, you know, because there's different ways to skin a cat. Board of directors, there's chat about shares and people not wanting responsibility because of the history of the football club. Understandable, and these businessmen know what makes it tick. But there's people who do want to be involved. You know, there's people who actively want to be involved, and we've got to embrace that and get them involved. So
and just looking at that history that you've mentioned, because this is still Nuneaton Borough. Some might say, well, which reincarnation of Nuneaton is it? But there is some historical debt showing at Company's House, I believe. Some figures have been bandied about, maybe even up as high as 650,000. Obviously there was some historical debt that may or may not have been written off. What's the financial status of the club as we sit here today?
Yeah, the last set of accounts that were made public are showing a debt of around 650k, I believe, and I believe a large chunk of that is the written off debt from the previous owners. The active debt that we're working with is around about £80,000 to a various couple of companies. So drastically reduced from 3 years ago, which was the toughest journey Jimmy and the guys at the time could have took. Not the easy option, but the done thing would have been to go into administration, wipe the debt off and start again. I guess 2 leagues lower or 3 leagues lower, wherever that would have put us, which has been done in the past, which is always a difficult thing to do. COVID came along and we would have been no further forward as a football team. We'd have still been languishing in that division at the time. So the fact, you know, you've got to tip your hat to Jimmy and the guys at the time who made that decision to fight off the debt and spend 2 years building bridges with a lot of local businesses, and there is a lot of goodwill out there, and there's a lot of good people involved now from top to bottom that are local people, and that's probably key to the business at this moment in time. We want to get the football club back at the centre of the community, you know, on and off the pitch, and that's the basis of everything we're trying to do.
And we'll talk more about the costs of running a football club, but to be clear, it's one owner who is also the football club manager, who has a chair, who's essentially a strategic person with the role of general manager, who can't hire and fire, perhaps wouldn't want to, but as a whole club development, not just a first team, let's get matches won on the pitch, you're looking at a helicopter view of the whole club within the whole of Nuneaton.
Yeah. I mean, my role when I first started with the junior section, I saw it as putting the foundations of the club in.
When you say that, though, the foundations, I mean, are you thinking that, you know, a player that comes in at aged 8 might well turn out for the first team? Is that the progression, or were you just thinking you wanted to see more people around Nuneaton wearing Boro shirts, or was it that you wanted those young people to bring their families to games and therefore boost the numbers?
All of that, every aspect of it. A chance to represent the Nuneaton Borough Football Club at such a young age was a big pull and a big driver behind the teams coming on board, wearing the first team kit. Season tickets that were given to all of these kids to get them through the gate, to embrace the next generation of fans, and bringing revenue into the club on a match day, non-match day, parties, and we need to start using it 7 days a week. And for me, everything that we've done over these last 18 months, 2 years, including revamping the bars and tidying everywhere up and getting people in on non-match days, darts events, everything that we do there all brings revenue into the club, where I guess before that was here and there was just the first team, it'd be open Tuesdays for training, Thursdays for training and Saturdays for matches. You know, there may have been functions at times, but the building is now 14 years old and was a temporary building put in, you know, so there's a lot of repair work going on. There's a lot of issues with the building, you know, we spend 6 months fixing the ceiling and the floor starts going. You know, everywhere needs a lick of paint, and we rely heavily on the volunteers to do that now.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that, because I know that is a big part of, a big time-consuming part of not just your role, but the owner's role, and many others, whether they're from the cooperative or other volunteers, goodwill from sponsors, etc. A lot of the in-kind gestures that we'll come on to as well, because they're worth noting. Let's just go through a typical match day, because there's a question here. You know, we've talked a little bit about historical debt, we've talked about how much current debt might be. What are the running costs on a match day, let's say? Because I mean, we hear figures bandied about, for example, you know, 70 quid to turn the floodlights on.
Yeah, that's not far off. It's about £25 an hour in the current energy crisis to run the floodlights. Because stick crisis on the end of something these days, you can inflate the price of everything. So we've got the floodlights on an evening game, or sort of the depths of winter. We warm the building up and get everything switched on from 11 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, all being well if it's been a good day. You've got three or four bar staff that are paid. You've got 3 or 4 waitresses and waiters that work in the hospitality that are paid, that are young kids. You've got kiosk staff that are paid, and then a lot of the stewards that are paid. And then you've got the volunteers. You know, the volunteers on a match day are crucial to the business. So Sue and Jeff in the turnstiles, the club shop, the 50-50, the golden goal, that bring in all the extra revenue that is crucial to the business. So to put a figure on it, you know, on a good day, based on the average of 400, you're probably looking at anywhere between £500 and £1,000 to run the day, I guess. And that's a lot of money when your numbers are dwindling. We've still got to get that same crux of people in and do the same thing.
And that doesn't take into account player wages, which would vastly inflate that figure. And
Correct.
therefore, even with a gate of 400, make some assumptions. You know, these losses are made somewhere. Is that where the losses are made?
We need to be making turning over £8,000 a week. The business turnover. We need to be turning over £8,000 a week, and on a good match day, on a cheeky midweek game, you're about there. But there's weeks where we don't have any games for a couple of weeks.
Match ball sponsors and people, money behind the bar, and all those other sources of revenue would average around about 8,000.
About £8,000.
And that takes into account, you know, your season ticket holders and all of that.
Yeah, that's all accounted for. We did a presentation to the sponsors and the sponsors at the start of the year that said the Nuneaton Borough is currently a £500,000 business, and the last 2 or 3 years we've lost £100,000 a year. So we brought in a commercial manager to try and fill that gap, and you did a lot of good work up front, and then you get to now and it gets tough to sell this season because you're halfway through and the results weren't quite going your way. It's not such an attractive proposition. You've been there, Dave, you know, it becomes a hard sell.
It does.
So you have to look at everything. I mean, it's a fluid. Our treasurer is very black and white. You know, we target him to hit a loss or a gain, and he'll tell us that on a monthly basis. But you have to be fluid, and you might not get a run home game for 3 weeks. Which is,
and if you've got a crowd of 300, then the following time, if you don't get 500, then you're now £2,000 or £1,000 worse off than your target, and that accumulates very, very quickly.
Very quickly.
And then you're back where you started 3 years ago, presumably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the danger. The club's in a very fragile place. It's not a sob story; it's the truth. You know, Jimmy spent 2 years saving the club, got the head above water, and now we're just treading water, and we're trying to make it work, and that's the difficulty, the balance at the minute. Because if we're winning on the pitch and things are going well, we get generally more people through the gate, and I get the frustrations, but everything that contributes to that is everything we're doing. And we're trying to help ourselves by, you know, Mark Grimes' darts tournaments that we get not lambasted for, but we get a little bit of stick. But this is all contributing to the deficit that has been there for the last 2, 3, 4 years. And at the minute, with what we've got, it's the only way. It's the only way to do it.
And football fans would say, well, great that I've just seen some more person walking through the town in a Borough shirt. Lovely that the darts was on a Sunday night. However, the team aren't playing well. They're bottom of the league. There's been a high turnover of players. I think it's only fair that if we were to have this conversation, we would probably have it with Jimmy and his backroom team. However, from a financial point of view and from a commercial point of view, and as you say, placing this club in the community, it is harder when you look at results and the position of the club in the league. Now, we all want the club to survive. We don't want to go down that road of, well, let's just throw loads of money at it and hope. That's a hard job for you, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think it's been done in the past, hasn't it? You know, the money, when the Borough have done well, the money's been there, and when they haven't, the money hasn't been there. It's no secret. And we're on a long-term journey, and the football team is the pinnacle of our business, no two ways about it. Everything else we're doing is working under that football team to make it secure and make it stable for many, many years to come. And that's a long road. That's not going to be an overnight fix. There's no quick fix there. That's our long-term vision. That's our long-term aim. Short term, Jimmy is, as you've said, we'll sit and have the same conversation with you and his backroom staff and talk more candidly about the football side of things. But Jimmy as a person brings a hell of a lot to the business, 9 to 5. And it's been well documented that a lot of the guys who are currently on board are here because of what Jimmy's done, not necessarily for Jimmy, but the difficult decision he took 2 years ago to do what he did. And a lot of people believed in that and believed in the story and believe and still do. And I'm one of them, and that's why I'm here.
And you mentioned there earlier on, you know, the phrase that we hear, Jimmy saved the club, but before we had this conversation, you talked about, no, Jimmy is saving the club. But it's not just Jimmy, and Jimmy would be the first to say it's not just him. There are a lot of people who are saving. This is an ongoing process. This club is not saved. No.
It's in a fragile place. You know, as I said earlier, Jimmy coins it. We got the Titanic off the bottom of the seabed. We've raised it, and now we've got to keep it afloat. We don't want to make the same mistakes or the same process of what the Borough's seen over the years, which is very, very up and down. We want to leave a legacy and something that can be maintained and used for many, many years to come. We could sell up tomorrow, you know, if we really wanted to. to somebody that could come in and short term invest some money and I don't know, win us the league and take us up to the Conference North, but the infrastructure of the business isn't there to maintain it, and then it'll walk away.
Let's come back to that, because that labours the point about why this club has decided to go down the community route of lots of junior teams and under 21s. I think, was there an academy talked about? Is there still an academy?
There is an academy.
There's the women's team. You know, give me the club's reasons for one. I mean, we've talked about the potential new fans and all of that, but is there a revenue stream from those? Because we hear a lot about academies funding first team budgets, even though we probably think they shouldn't. I don't know whether that actually goes on, but you know, these are the rumours that go around football grounds, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've always got half an eye on the future because that's the long-term goal. But currently, the academy doesn't make money hand over fist. You know, we're tied in with an educational partner. A lot of the funding is educational. We provide the football. You know, so it's a hybrid model. The juniors, the ladies, the 21s, it's all self-sufficient. It's all self-sufficient from a point of view that it's got its own bank account. It doesn't cost the main club any money. It doesn't suck any money out. And at the same time, it doesn't put a load of money in.
So they're in name only, really, then it's the badge and the kit.
Yeah, that's how we wanted to start. So I was obviously involved in the creation of it, and I said, well, look, you know, we were tasked with raising thousands of pounds at the start, which was a tough ask, but one that we took on. And over time, it was more of an ambassadorial role for the junior section to say, you know, we had to make a lot of people believe in coming to play for Nuneaton Borough because of stories of the past. And a lot of people took a punt, and we've created 30 teams in 2 years, 2 COVID-affected years. And they are around the place. They do wear the badge around the town. It does increase awareness of the brand, and that was probably the biggest driver for me. And you know, we get ball boys down here, not religiously, but it all helps. And we get 20 or 30 of the young lads singing in the stand on a Saturday afternoon that are the next generation of fans. And
girls as well, which is
boys and girls, yes.
Only to point that out is that you know, we've seen an increase in diversity. We'd like to see a bit more. Some people are asking, you know, I've glanced at these questions about whether there's more we could do with the town. You know, is there a chance to put a market stall there or a pop-up shop with merchandise in, sell maybe match day tickets, incentives? Is that something that you're looking at?
I guess it comes down to people.
Yeah.
You know, we'd love to do it all. We'd love to do the lot. You know, a presence in town, a shop in town. You know, even that far. But we struggle to get all of our volunteers for a match day at the minute. You know, you rely heavily on volunteers as a football club. There used to be a lot of volunteers down here Monday to Friday. That's dwindled down for one reason or another. So yes is the answer. We'll embrace anything and anything that enhances the reputation of the club, improves the income, and just gets the club known back around the town. There's still people who don't know where Liberty Way is. There's still people who come through the door who have never been here. You know, and that's a legacy that you pick up from when we came 14 years ago.
Does that there's a question here about getting messages out, you know. I mean, we don't want to overdo it, but is there ever too much information? Is there a media team that are perhaps, you know, the question is, you know, why have we had players signed and we didn't know about it until we see them on the team sheet? You know, they're being signed that late in the day, or certain information's not going out. We're in the communication age, let's face it.
Yeah.
So why aren't people hearing about the club? What is it that's blocking the news? Why are people asking the question about awareness?
Yeah, valid question. We're obviously, the processes we use aren't quick enough. That's obvious, I think, because the Southern League will pick up signings before we do because the paperwork has to go off to them. It might not necessarily always be the right thing for the Southern League to do, I don't know, but that's the way the process works. If we're trying, Dan Bradley, for example, signed last week, his paperwork wasn't completed till 8 o'clock on Friday night, but at tea time his registration was on the Southern League because, as far as they were concerned, he was okay to sign with the Southern League team because he wasn't involved with the Southern League team, but he was on a contract, so we have to get the FA ratified that he's been released from his contract, and that didn't come through till 8 o'clock at night. And then we're prepping for a match day, and Mark's, printing off match day paperwork and things like that. So I guess that again, the media team are a team of volunteers, and I would probably admit that the processes that we go through to announce these players is probably not as quick as what the other avenues do, and that's something we'll learn from and try and get better at. And as you've mentioned, the turnover has been high recently, and we don't sign one a week, we sign 2 or 3 in quick succession. So
you can imagine
people.
There's a host of questions about the team, the coaching staff and the manager, about the league position, the cup competitions that Nuneaton have gone out of. I've spoken to Jimmy and his backroom team, and they're going to speak to me on the record, and we'll video that, and we'll put that out in the new year to address that.
Yeah.
You're talking about this longer term plan. You're also sharing the fragility of the football club. Will it ever not be fragile? But there is a plan, isn't there? People will be interested to hear what this plan consists of, because a lot of it relies on knowing where we're going to be playing our games in the future, with leases, and knowing that the building isn't going to leak, or the 4 claps, which you pointed out. So talk us through the dream. What's the plan?
The dream is to be the masters of our own destiny, I guess. But what that looks like and where that is, nobody knows. Currently we have no assets. We don't own any of the land that we are on. It's a fantastic facility that we've got. It's a fantastic stadium that we have. It's probably one of the best in the league. The pitch is very, very good, and it's worthy of being in a high division. The buildings that we use to run the day-to-day goings of the club are struggling. We touched on it earlier, they're struggling. So the key thing for us is to be in a purpose-built stadium that makes us a sustainable football business, so that the business takes care of itself, and then everything that comes in for the football team, sponsorship, matchday revenue and the likes, can be focused into that football team. And at the minute, the money comes in and gets used on not other things, but we've got energy, electricity bills to pay every month, we've got gas bills to pay every month, and running repairs of the place, and still paying off a little bit of a historical debt and things like that. So, and when we do a match day or a function, everything we do on that match day or function, you have to speculate to accumulate. So 25% roughly on sort of food and drink as a profit margin is what we're bringing in. So if we take £10,000 on a match day, only £2,500 of that would be profit, because you had to go and buy your 100 barrels of beer, you had to go and put your buffet on, you had to go and get all your food for your burgers. So it's all helping, but it's nowhere near where it needs to be as a business, as a football business. We're not doing anything at the detriment of the first team. The first team is the most important thing to us, but we're not going to rush into something that will give us short-term gain to sacrifice this long-term project.
But are you also saying that the buildings that we are sitting in now are the big drain on the club, and that although the stands are sound and the pitch is green, that whilst this is here, this club will never really make any money? Is that the problem?
Yeah, we don't own anything, do we? We've got no assets. We can't do anything with it. We don't want to go and put a £500,000 standing down this side because the lease is running out and we don't own a stadium. It would just be dead money.
And is there a chance that Nuneaton Borough would ever own this stadium again, or would it be that the club has to move? What's the plan?
We're ruling nothing out. We're looking at all of our options. The animosity that the move from Manor Park caused, would you want to go through that again? I don't know. You'd get mixed reactions, but you have to look at it as from a sense of realism, that what does the future hold, and we've got to find that out very, very soon. We're not going to sit idle on our hands to say, well, we'll be okay, and then bang. That's what we don't want to happen. So we're actively working behind the scenes to to try and secure the future of this football club on and off the pitch.
And that could be here,
Yes,
but it might not be.
yes, ruling nothing out.
So will you be actively looking for a site away from Liberty Way? Is there such a site that exists? How would that happen?
You can dream, can't you? I mean, there's enough houses going up in Nuneaton at the minute. There's got to be a bit of spare farmland somewhere. But when the move from Manor Park came about to Liberty Way, it was deemed as out of town. So do we want to go back into town? Is there anywhere in town? There's a lot of loops and red tape, I guess, to go through before you can even get the support of the relevant people to potentially make it happen.
And you've got that red tape, and time is not necessarily on the football club side, is it?
No, 5 or 6 years is not a long time in football.
So in terms of urgency, this is something that's going to happen now. What are you doing?
It's pretty much becoming priority number one. Yeah.
So what's going on as we speak?
I think I mentioned in the fans forum or in one of my online statements that we're working with some external consultants about the future of Nuneaton Borough Football Club and what that looks like, and we've created a 5-year plan, which we are already we're into the second year of, because the first year of that plan was to lay the foundations and make Nuneaton not sustainable, because we're not quite there yet, but certainly to try and secure the future of the club. We're 12 months into that 5-year plan, and at the end of that 5-year plan we want to hit that sustainable business model for the football club from top to bottom, for everybody who's associated with the Nuneaton Borough Football Club, the fans, the supporters cooperative, the board of directors, or what it looks like when we create it, the owner, the manager, the chairman, the staff, the volunteers, everybody. And that will be the most pleasing aspect if we can get to that point.
And are we on track? Because you said it's a 5-year plan. We're a year in.
Yeah, we're 12 months in. We've done our first year, and we're well into the second year of that plan. And look, it does involve the football.
Mm-hmm.
Relegation is not part of that plan. And
Does relegation, if the worst should happen, does it impact the plan?
It does not impact the plan. It does not impact the plan, because
what if the fans stop turning up?
The fans are currently not coming through the gate in realism, because they're not happy with everything that's going on the pitch.
Right.
And I get that. We talked about it earlier. I get that, and it's frustrating because we all want a successful football club, And again, saving the football club, we're still going through that process. And phase 1, because phase 2 has been mentioned, phase 1 naturally ended when we saved the club and started getting back on the football and not looking behind our shoulders all the time, which we've notoriously done for a long time. And we're into phase 2 now, which is the 5-year plan, which is what we're all heading for.
Does it gall you that, like it does the fans, when we talk about trying to compete with other clubs at this level, and I'm trying to phrase this in a way that offers no disrespect to the clubs at this level, but there is this big club mentality still amongst a lot of Borough fans, myself included. We've been there at the top of the pyramid. There is no divine right to be there, and we're probably where we are because of everything that you've just described. I say we because I feel like a part of the club. Could perhaps understand that you might not be able to compete with the Stockport counties of the world with their infrastructure and potentially budgets and revenue streams and ownership of the ground and all of that. Does it gall you when people say, well, we can't, why aren't we competing with other teams in this league? And you probably can imagine the teams I'm thinking of.
Yeah, of course it does. Look, I'm a fan as well. I've followed the Borough for many years and seen the good times and the bad times. The way I look at it is there'll always be somebody worse off than yourself. There's as big of clubs as the Borough that have gone a lot further down the chain. You look at Macclesfield, up the wall, they were a ruin. It was closed. The place was closed, wasn't it? And there's other clubs that have gone to the wall. Scarborough went a long way down, and they have to build back up. And I guess the history and the big club mentality of the football club is there, and rightly so, because it is a big non-league football club. But we're at the start of that journey.
So you're saying we should be competing at this level? I don't just mean on the pitch, but off it as well. I mean,
The model at the minute is the 4G model, isn't it? That's what a lot of clubs are doing to make themselves sustainable. And that will bring in you revenue 7 evenings a week and certainly help. And there's other teams that probably aren't full-time, they haven't got full-time employees working at the club. But we have, and that's because we're trying to build the business into a 7-day-a-week business. We could easily just shut the doors and turn up day to day and be even worse prepared. But we don't want to do that. We want to make it a place for everybody to come and everybody to use 7 days a week. That's what we're trying to do, and that's a long road. And that's not my out. That's not my easy fallback answer. That's the truth in what we're trying to do. And the budget and everything like that, we think it's competitive, but it's just not working at the minute. It's just not clicking. It's in there because we've been on the 6-game unbeaten run and gone. Things are going really well, but we've got the confidence, we've got the faith, we've got the belief in Jimmy and the team and the lads he's got in that they will turn it around.
Which comes first then? The success on the pitch or the success off it, or are the two things going to happen simultaneously? Because we're talking about sustainability now. We expected the team to push on and go through the leagues, and then everything else will happen to support that, or is it the other way around?
Well, I think the foundations are there with what we've done the last 2 or 3 years, and the football team is there, and that's got to be seen as a positive, because 3 years ago we were going to close the doors. They were sitting in the changing rooms and using phone lights to do the team talks and things like that, and there wasn't a sponsor board around the place. So we've got that. We've got the top of the business, the football team, the first team, and we've got the foundations of the business, which is the people and the good people who are doing everything behind the scenes. We've just got to fill that middle void now. We get a lot of sponsorship money in, not as much as people would think. We get a lot of support from local businesses, which helps to everything, and that's probably the grey area at the minute. We want the budget and the sponsorship to be pushing into the first team, and at the minute it's probably doing everything else, including paying old debts and the likes. And
there's a lot of goodwill as well, and we have to give credit when there are these leaks and issues and flooring issues. There are a lot of people who come and give materials and time, which would normally cost you if you had to go and buy them, and they do that pretty quickly as well. They can turn something around. I mean, that's the Nuneaton community spirit coming out there, isn't it? There's
absolutely.
I can name a lot of towns where that would never happen. You wouldn't even know to pick up the phone to, but there's a lot of favours being done.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. All our plumbing supplies come from Stewart. At a very, very competitive rate.
Well, the flooring, we know, we've mentioned that. And then you've got some volunteers who've given hours beyond belief, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, this place from where it was 2 or 3 years ago is almost unrecognisable.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can put on functions and do's and host match days and the likes. It's the old duck syndrome, isn't it? You've got to make it look nice and serene on top, while your legs are going 100 miles an hour underneath. Look, it's still got its flaws. There's still ceiling tiles missing where we've had leaks. We're not adverse to that. We're not blind to that. The lights in the offices are constantly tripping.
A purpose-built brick building would be an absolute saviour, wouldn't it?
Yeah, everybody dreams of having their own saviour.
It makes a massive difference.
It does. I had a conversation with the Burton board last night, only a brief conversation, and just said, your story is something that we would like to mirror. 2009, I think they won the conference. Years before that, we were playing them. Population less than Nuneaton, and I just said, what's the secret to your success? And he just said, a stadium.
Get in the stadium.
In the stadium, owning the stadium, and being able to generate your own funds 7 days a week. That's
the dream and the plan, which is good. I'm just looking down through the questions. Progression, we briefly touched on it. It would be great if somebody aged 8 was playing for the first team 10 years later. We've seen local people come through into the first team. I can remember Trevor Peake coming through, and then of course Gaz Dean and Jimmy Armson and many other names, and we love that in Nuneaton, don't we, to see the local person coming through, and the same on the women's section. We'd love to see that as well. Carl Baker Academy, is there still a link with Carl, or is that now gone? Was there ever a link?
Yeah, there was a link. Yeah. Carl seen the work when he came back in at the start of the season. Had seen the transformation of the club over the 2 years since he left to go to Brackley, and put a little bit of faith in us with saying, I want to feed my academy into the club, which we were absolutely thrilled about, and coupled that with our own academy mates for a very strong under-21 side. And there was young Josh Thompson made his first team debut last night in the Birmingham Senior Cup for the last 20 minutes, which is brilliant. You know, bearing in mind that the under-21s are in their first season since the season off, and they came the season before that. To see that happening now really gives us a sense of achievement that in 2 years' time there'll hopefully be 3 or 4 Josh Thompsons. Young Zach Tellins had a few cameo appearances from the bench, Curtis Howe in goal. So the production line is starting to come into fruition, and it's only the first season that it's been there. Brilliant. Which is really pleasing. And look, we want these lads to go on and have successful careers, and there's a lot of players that have left Nuneaton Borough and gone on to successful careers. Yeah,
we'd love to see that as well. Supporters cooperative. I mean, we talk about this model that you talk about, sustainability. I'm assuming, I mean, you mentioned the Hollywood fraternity coming over and investing, but that's not always a good model, is it? Because when they leave, then you're back where you started. So you're talking sustainable. So you're not talking about one person coming in with a big wedge of money and pushing Nuneaton through the leagues. You're talking about the revenue generated 7 days a week and sponsorship being that sustainable model.
Yeah.
Where would a supporters cooperative fit into that? Would they have a place on the board? And where do they fit now? Because obviously there was talk about them having shares. There was, you know, it's all a bit muddled for me. Explain it.
Yeah, so I've seen the letter that the supporters cooperative have sent out to their members. And if I dissect it, I agree with the first couple of paragraphs, and I agree with the end couple of paragraphs. And unfortunately, there's this bit in the middle that says that I think the phrase was, we've kicked them into the long grass. That could not be further from the truth, I'm afraid. To be fair, the supporters cooperative were one of the first people through my door this time last year, which I applauded. And I chatted with the chairman and the treasurer at the time. The treasurer's since stepped down, and said, look, absolutely, we'll pick up whatever your agreement was with the previous chairman and Jimmy, and we'll work with that, you know. But the nature of the football club is that one priority one day will not be your main priority the next day, and it's just a constantly changing landscape. And the supporters cooperative chairman is in the same group of sponsors on the WhatsApp, if you like, as is the Modern Day, and received the same notifications about the 4 meetings we have had as a business, as a club, since I've come in. We had one in May, outlining what the financial side of the club looked like and what we were trying to do, which we touched on earlier about the turnover and reducing that deficit. We had a bit of a small committee meeting with the working level guys that we'll try to look at the day-to-day problems, and we've had 2 sponsors meetings at the back end of the year that they were invited to as well. And I think they've only been to 1 of the 4 meetings, which is really unfortunate, because the supporters cooperative is a huge asset to the football club. I mentioned earlier we've got no assets, but the non-physical assets of, like, the supporters cooperative and the supporters and the volunteers, they're the huge things to the football club at the minute. Now, it probably needs to bring itself into the 21st century a little bit. It has put a request out for younger members, because the older members of the executive committee are struggling, but we as a club, and me as the current chairman, want to work with the supporters cooperative 100%. Now, the conversation about shares is, I think there's only 1 share of the football club. So it's not like there's 100 shares and they were due 5 or 10 of them. I haven't looked at that, but I have said to them that their place on what the board looks like or the sponsors group looks like at the minute is definitely there, and moving forward is definitely there as well.
And these meetings that you've had, do you hold minutes of those meetings? Are they on record?
Yeah, the minutes are on record on the laptops. The two sponsors' meetings were very informal. The meeting in May was a finance meeting, and the minutes from what was probably the start of the creation of probably a working level committee. A minuted, yeah, absolutely. So, and
in this dream plan scenario, would there be fan ownership of the football club, or are we talking about a structure that you've just described? How would that look?
Yeah, I mean, fan ownership is high on the agenda with everybody at the minute, isn't it, in this current climate, and relative levels, you see it a lot at the top end, that owners have to pass all these fit and purpose tests now and things like that. So fan ownership is a difficult one. Some models have worked, some models haven't worked. I haven't looked into it deeply of what it really entails, but again, you would never rule anything out for whatever the good of the football club is. That's the overriding driver for me, is whatever is the best for the football club at the time is what needs to be done.
And the realistic view, if we are sitting here today in December, you've already said it's still a fragile situation. The club continues to be saved. It's on a path towards, hopefully, a 5-year plan that looks like a sustainable club, maybe here, maybe elsewhere, with a first team that we all hope is performing well. We don't know what division that might be in. I think you'd accept that being bottom of the league is not a good position to be in, but that there's hope, because you've seen a run of results previous in the season that would suggest the team can get out of trouble. We've agreed to talk to Jimmy and his backroom team about matters on the pitch, and I think that's only fair.
Yeah, and I think that's been driven by the questions that have come in are all, great questions, and they're wide and varied, and we've tried to cover them all, and that's driven Jimmy to say he does want to sit down, and he does want to talk to the fans. We get accused of being a closed book, but we'll only tell people what they need to know and what they want to hear from a point of view of, look, the signings not being announced in time is frustrating. I get that, but other than that, we're just looking at everything behind the scenes that needs looking at, and when we feel the time is right, like now, 12 months into the role, maybe we need to do something a little bit more often. Yeah. People have mentioned newsletters and the like, so yeah, we'll keep working and keep trying to get things right and keep talking to people all the time. That's what we want to do.
And we know Jimmy will talk about his position as the club owner and the club manager, which is a completely unique position, and he's going to talk to us about how that works, whether the team is performing well or not. And I think that's only fair that he has the chance to do that, and he's agreed to do that and wants to do that. Actually, it was his suggestion. So, and I think that's right. We can all have hopes and dreams. The club is fragile. The crowds are slightly down. We don't know how things are going to happen in the new year with COVID restrictions potentially and all of that. How fragile? I mean, are we still teetering? Will there still be a club at the end of the season? Is it how drastic or not?
We're looking forward. We're planning forward. We're planning for a long-term future. During the last COVID pandemic and while we were closed for what was probably the best part of sort of 12, 18 months, the funding was there and the grants were there, and they helped. They helped us no end, and things like that. So if the worst comes to the worst and COVID affects us again and that funding's there, we'll be okay. If we continue on the path that we're currently going down with the football club and everything that's going on, we'll have to adjust that month by month budget wise. We budgeted for 400 fans through the gate. If we're not getting that, we'll look and assess that. The budget is down from where we started because of
you cut the budget
slightly. Yeah, we've had to. We went down to about 16 players at one stage. We started off with a competitive budget, and that contributes to where we are. After the Stratford game and the FA Cup, which was a real low point this season. If your FA Cup money dries up, that
you don't set a budget.
No, we don't.
You don't set a budget with an FA Cup running line, do you?
No, but it certainly helps when you've got £100,000 deficit year on year anyway.
Yeah.
So you get into the first round, the second round, you're set for the season, aren't you? The season or two. But we adjusted things after that. Jimmy got rid of a few of the fringe players, and sort of here we are 3 months later, just starting to settle down again. We've got some loan players in that their loans and deals are up at the end of this month and the start of next month. Whether they'll be extended or whether they'll get called back or whether we'll send them back is still up for debate. And then we've probably got a crux of about 14, 15 players that we've got something to build on again to...
But it's not the lowest budget in the league. I mean, people talk about and speculate about club budgets, and it makes me smile when fans of other clubs know what the budgets are of a team like Nuneaton. I'm like, well, I don't even know, so how do you know?
Everybody else knows everybody else's but their own.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I would say we've probably got a competitive budget, but for some one reason or another it's just not clicking, and that's the beauty of football. You know, and yeah, the easy option would be to sack the manager in normal circumstances, but is that the best thing for the football club at this moment in time?
Why isn't it the best thing?
Because of what he brings to the rest of the business, which is fundamental to the football club, which is at the top of our business. So it's not about at the detriment of the team. You know, we've still got a team. We want to drive that team forward. We want to build on the pitch and off the pitch. And it all goes hand in hand. It's like your earlier question about what comes first. For me, they can go hand in hand.
With everything that's been happening in the last 18 months, we've had a huge focus on the NHS, myself included. My dear mother spent 6 visits in George Eliot Hospital locally, on and off. My father spent 1 visit and sadly passed away, but what struck me and many, many people in this town is the amazing work that the NHS staff and their volunteers have been doing. And it's not even so much as a question here, but whether there's a fixture that we could set aside. I say we now because, again, I'm feeling part of the town and the club, even though I don't live in Nuneaton any longer. I spend probably more time in Nuneaton just lately. My dad was a huge fan, as people know. The club paid tribute to him, which I'm eternally grateful for. I'm sure he would have enjoyed it. Is there a way that we can thank NHS staff? I, for one, would be up for hosting some kind of, I don't know, party in the bar after a game where perhaps they can come free of charge or something like that. It's a great idea, isn't it? I mean, whether they'd want to come, whether they can get the time off. Whether they'll be able to mix with us.
It's a difficult
the unjabbed and the jabbed and all of those. Well, let's not go there. I thought about that 18 months ago when my mum first went into hospital and saw the amazing service that she got. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great that the club could do something?
Absolutely fantastic suggestion. One that we'll certainly look into. We'll speak to Jamie through the physio route and Kev, who works at the George Eliot Hospital, and certainly propose something that works for them. We get a lot of requests. We've chosen Lily May as the charity of the year because one of our junior parents was closely associated with that and unfortunately lost an unborn child this year. We've had a request from a couple of lads in Stockingford that have started to do some fundraising work for the young girl Sophie who lost her legs to cancer. We did our fun day. We got Danny Oldacres down to raise some awareness with Netherton syndrome and raise some money for Danny. We've just signed up with a charity called Molly's Ollies, that was a charity that I didn't know about.
I know them very well, actually. Molly's Ollies Wishes.
That's right.
Yeah, great charity.
With cancer, but also young people who've been affected by cancer in other family members, which resonated with a local girl who works in the nurses. So we get a lot of requests all the time, and we'd love to do them all, but things like this suggestion for the NHS is something that we can certainly look at doing for them. And whatever that looks like for them, whether it's a party in the current climate is a strange one. But yeah, a free day if they show the pass to come and watch the football, you know, we're always up for suggestions and things like that. So
brilliant. And I'm going to leave you with the final word. I've addressed all of the questions, I hope, in some way, if not specifically, then in general, through your answers from the ones that were submitted. And this is not the end of the process. We've already talked about bringing Jimmy in and his backroom team. And we'll keep these lines of communication open. I know yours is always an open door. There is no way that people are being refused the communications. It's just that it needs sharpening up a little bit. But I will. Pun on the name. But with the final word being yours, what would you like to say to the majority of the fans, not just the ones that submit these questions?
Yeah, I guess for me it's trust the process. I'm learning. It's been a steep learning curve for me these last 12 months. I came in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, you know, with my Boro tinted glasses on. I thought there can be no bad from this, but it's certainly been a steep learning curve. We will keep the lines of communication open, and we will talk to fans as much as they want us to talk to them and tell them everything we possibly can. And yeah, for me, if they can trust the process and believe in a good group of Nuneaton people that are involved with the club, that have got the best interests of the club at heart, then hopefully we'll reap the benefits from that, and moving forward we'll be able to work in unison.
Brilliant. Merry Christmas. I think we're allowed to say that. It's next week, so we won't be starting saying it in November. It's appropriate. And Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a prosperous one for all of us, and that people can stay healthy, and that we have some joy on and off the pitch as well. Jason, thanks for your frank and honest answers. We'll do this again in the new year, and for now, thank you very much.
Cheers, Dave. Thanks a lot. Merry Christmas.
Go, go, go.